In Ireland, there's a tradition where young people gather in rural villages for something called matching, but it's not what modern dating apps have taught you. This Emerald Island holds secrets that challenge everything you think you know about European life. Behind the rolling green hills and charming stone cottages lies a nation where ancient rituals still dictate romance, where your neighbors can legally enter your home without permission, and where the weather can shift from sunshine to storm in the span of a single conversation. But here's what will truly shock you. In this land of supposed conservatism, there's a dating practice so bold it makes Scandinavian countries look prudish. Irish shift culture has evolved into something that would leave most cultures speechless. What exactly is this practice, and how does it shape modern Irish relationships? Stay until the end, because we're going to uncover that mystery, alongside hidden truths that tourism brochures will never reveal. What you're about to discover will shatter every assumption about this Atlantic nation, and by the end, your understanding of what it means to live on the edge of Europe will be completely transformed. You'll also need to tell us in the comments whether you could adapt to these Irish social customs. If you're ready to see Ireland through a completely different lens, subscribe and turn on notifications, because this journey into Ireland's hidden realities is just beginning. Now, let's uncover the real Ireland. Number 1. The confession box that decides your social standing. Every Sunday across Ireland, something happens that would make privacy advocates elsewhere lose their minds. In small rural communities, the local church isn't just a place of worship. It's the unofficial courthouse where your deepest secrets become tomorrow's gossip. The confessional booth system has evolved into an intricate social network where Father Murphy knows who's struggling with debt, who's having marriage troubles, and who's been drinking too much. Here's the twist that outsiders never grasp. This isn't about religious control, it's about community survival. When Mrs. O'Brien confesses she can't afford her heating bill, mysteriously, a bag of coal appears at her door the next morning. When young Seamus admits to the priest he's lost his job, suddenly 3 different farmers need help with the harvest. The confession isn't judgment, it's Ireland's ancient welfare system disguised as spirituality. The psychological weight of this system is staggering. Everyone knows that their private struggles will somehow, through invisible channels, become the community's business. Yet they participate because isolation in these remote villages means death, socially and sometimes literally during harsh winters. What fascinates behavioral scientists is how this system creates both intense social pressure and remarkable resilience. Do you think you could handle living in a place where your secrets become the foundation of your community's care for you? Drop your thoughts in the comments. But this tradition of communal intimacy extends beyond the church walls into something even more surprising. Number 2. The right of ancient roads that still haunts property owners. Ancient Irish law grants something called right-of-way that would terrify American homeowners. If a path crossed your land for more than 20 years, anyone can legally walk through your property, even if you've built a house on it. These ghostly roads, invisible to modern maps, are remembered by elderly locals who guide strangers through what appears to be private property. Picture this. You've bought a beautiful cottage in County Clare, complete with gardens and privacy walls. Then one morning, a group of hikers appears at your back door, politely explaining they're following the old butter road that connected villages centuries ago. They're not trespassing, they're exercising a legal right older than most nations. The system creates a living museum where ancient trade routes remain active. Farmers' fields are crisscrossed by invisible highways that exist only in community memory. When disputes arise, elderly residents become human maps, testifying about paths their grandparents described. What's haunting is how these ancient rights supersede modern property concepts. Your deed means nothing against a road that existed when chieftains ruled these lands. The landscape itself remembers human movement across centuries. The legal battles can be surreal, with surveyors trying to locate paths that exist only in oral history. Number 3. The weather gambling that rules social plans. Irish weather isn't just unpredictable. It's weaponized by locals into a complex social currency that newcomers never decode. The phrase "it might clear up" isn't meteorological optimism. It's the foundation of an elaborate gambling system where social events hang in permanent suspension. Wedding planners in Ireland develop supernatural powers, reading cloud formations like ancient druids. A typical Irish wedding invitation doesn't just list a date. It includes backup indoor venues, rain contingency schedules, and what locals call weather escape clauses. Guests arrive prepared for 4 seasons within a single ceremony. The psychological impact runs deeper than ruined picnics. Irish social life exists in a state of perpetual maybe. Plans are made with the understanding that they're suggestions rather than commitments. "We'll see how the weather is" becomes the national motto for everything from outdoor markets to birthday parties. Newcomers find this maddening until they realize the weather uncertainty creates a unique social flexibility. When outdoor events are canceled, the entire community naturally gravitates toward pubs and indoor gatherings, creating spontaneous social connections that wouldn't happen in more predictable climates. The weather becomes Ireland's social director, forcing human adaptability that creates stronger community bonds. Type 1 in the comments if you think this weather gambling actually makes social life more interesting. Or 2, if you'd go insane with the uncertainty. This weather obsession connects to an even stranger phenomenon about Irish time. Number 4. The time warp that makes punctuality optional. Irish time isn't just a joke about being late. It's a parallel temporal universe where clocks are suggestions rather than laws. Arriving exactly on time to a dinner party marks you as either foreign or socially clueless. The proper arrival window spans from 15 minutes to 2 hours after the stated time, depending on complex social calculations. This system operates on emotional rather than mechanical time. If the conversation is flowing, the evening extends indefinitely. If someone's grandmother calls with news, time stops completely while proper attention is given. Americans scheduling business meetings learn to book Irish appointments for around 3-ish rather than 3:00 p.m. sharp. This temporal flexibility drives efficiency experts to despair, but it creates something remarkable: conversations that develop naturally rather than being truncated by arbitrary schedules. Irish social gatherings unfold like organic stories rather than structured events. The deeper philosophy involves rejecting industrial time in favor of human rhythms. When someone says, "I'll be there shortly," they mean, "I'll arrive when the current moment feels complete." This creates a society where people are present in conversations rather than mentally rushing to their next appointment. Business visitors learn to pack patience alongside their laptops. The Irish approach to time prioritizes relationship quality over schedule efficiency, but this relaxed approach to time hides a more intense reality about Irish social expectations. Number 5. The compliment culture that can destroy your self-worth. Irish compliments are psychological landmines disguised as kindness. When someone says, "You look well," they might mean you've gained weight. "That's a lovely dress" could translate to, "It's an improvement over your usual style." The art of the backhanded compliment reaches such sophistication that visitors often leave conversations feeling praised and insulted simultaneously. The social function serves as community regulation, without direct confrontation. Rather than telling someone their behavior is problematic, the community delivers correction through seemingly positive comments loaded with subtle criticism. "You're so brave to wear that" becomes a masterclass in social control through faux admiration. Newcomers struggle to decode these linguistic puzzles. A comment like, "Your garden is interesting" might mean it's a disaster, while "it's unique" definitely means it's terrible. The Irish have elevated indirect communication to an art form that preserves social harmony while delivering necessary feedback. The psychological complexity requires natives to develop exceptional emotional intelligence. Everyone learns to read micro-expressions, voice tone, and social context to understand the real message beneath polite words. This creates a population skilled at nonverbal communication, but exhausted by constant social translation. What's your take on this indirect communication style? Would you prefer brutal honesty or this complex dance of hidden meanings? Share your thoughts below. This communication complexity extends into something even more surprising about Irish romance. Number 6. The shift culture that redefines casual dating. Irish shift culture would shock dating app users worldwide. Shifting, essentially making out with strangers at social events, isn't considered promiscuous behavior but rather a normal part of social interaction. Unlike American hookup culture, shifting carries no expectation of further contact or emotional investment. The practice typically occurs at local festivals, pub gatherings, or community events where alcohol lowers social barriers. Participants might never speak again, yet the interaction isn't considered meaningful enough to warrant awkwardness. It's treated more like dancing, enjoyable in the moment but forgotten by morning. What distinguishes Irish shift culture is the complete separation from relationship expectations. Unlike cultures where physical intimacy implies romantic interest, shifting exists in its own category. Participants return to normal social interaction without drama or expectation. The system actually reduces sexual tension in small communities where everyone knows everyone. By providing a pressure release valve for physical attraction, Shifting prevents the romantic complications that could destroy tight-knit social groups. Anthropologists find this fascinating because it challenges Western assumptions about physical intimacy and emotional connection. Irish youth have essentially created a category of physical interaction that exists outside traditional dating frameworks. This casual approach to physical contact reveals something deeper about Irish attitudes towards social boundaries. Number 7. The neighbor's rights that make privacy impossible. Irish law grants neighbors legal rights that would horrify suburban Americans. If your neighbor's ball lands in your yard, they can legally enter to retrieve it. If their animal escapes, they have right of pursuit across property lines. These customary rights create a legal framework where individual property ownership bends to community needs. The social implications run deeper than legal technicalities. In rural areas, neighbors monitor each other's properties for signs of illness, financial trouble, or family crisis. A pile of mail at the door triggers community intervention. Overgrown gardens prompt concerned visits. This surveillance system operates through care rather than nosiness. Privacy becomes a collective concept rather than individual right. Your business is everyone's business, not through malice, but through community survival strategies developed over centuries. When storms isolate villages, neighbor surveillance becomes literally life-saving. Newcomers find this claustrophobic until they realize the benefits. Car breaks down at midnight? Someone will notice and offer help. Fall ill while living alone? Neighbors will check when they don't see your usual activity patterns. The loss of privacy becomes the foundation of security. The psychological adjustment requires redefining personal boundaries. Individual autonomy gives way to collective responsibility for everyone's well-being. But this communal approach extends to an even stranger aspect of Irish social organization. Number 8. The pub parliament that actually governs local politics. Irish pubs aren't just drinking establishments. They're unofficial government chambers where real political decisions get made. While formal county councils meet monthly, pub conversations determine which roads get repaired, which events get funded, and which problems receive community attention. The bartender often functions as an unofficial mayor, mediating disputes and gathering community intelligence. Regulars form an informal council of elders whose opinions carry more weight than elected officials. Proposals for community projects get tested in pub conversations before formal meetings. The system operates through what sociologists call liquid democracy, fluid conversations where consensus emerges through multiple casual discussions rather than formal voting. A suggestion made over Tuesday pints might become Thursday's community action plan. Visitors witness democracy's original form, direct community participation rather than representative bureaucracy. Problems get identified and solved through face-to-face conversation among people who must live with the consequences. The alcohol isn't incidental. It lowers social barriers that might prevent honest discussion of community problems. Hierarchies dissolve when everyone's gathered around the same bar. This informal governance system connects to something even more surprising about Irish social organization. Number 9. The GAA loyalty that divides families forever. The Gaelic Athletic Association creates tribal loyalties that transcend family bonds. Supporting rival GAA teams can cause generational rifts that make political disagreements look trivial. Marriages have been forbidden, friendships severed, and inheritance disputes triggered by GAA allegiances. The intensity seems absurd to outsiders, grown adults screaming about amateur sports played in small towns. But GAA represents something deeper than athletics. It's the modern expression of ancient clan warfare channeled into socially acceptable competition. Each parish has its team, and supporting that team becomes a statement of geographical and cultural identity. Moving away doesn't weaken the bond. Irish immigrants worldwide maintain GAA loyalties decades after leaving Ireland. The attachment operates at DNA level. The psychological investment creates genuine trauma when teams lose important matches. Communities enter collective mourning that lasts months. Victory celebrations, conversely, can unite fractured neighborhoods and heal old grudges. What makes this particularly Irish is how GAA loyalty overrides other social categories. Class, education, and political affiliations become irrelevant when team colors are involved. A doctor and a farmer will embrace like brothers if they support the same team, while cousins supporting rivals might not speak for years. Do you think this kind of intense local sports loyalty strengthens communities or creates unnecessary division? Let us know your perspective in the comments. This tribal intensity extends into an even more personal aspect of Irish identity. Number 10. The genealogy obsession that makes everyone related. Irish genealogy isn't hobby research. It's social navigation, essential for survival in small communities. Everyone maintains mental family trees spanning 6 generations to avoid accidentally dating relatives or insulting someone connected to their family network. The complexity multiplies in rural areas where surnames repeat and marriage patterns create intricate relationship webs. A casual comment about someone can backfire spectacularly when you discover they're your listener's second cousin through marriage. Social interactions require constant genealogical calculations. Professional genealogists become community resources, consulted before weddings, business partnerships, or major social commitments. Their knowledge prevents social disasters and helps navigate complex family politics that influence everything from job opportunities to housing arrangements. The psychological burden of maintaining these relationship maps exhausts newcomers. Every social interaction carries the risk of accidentally insulting someone's relatives. The safe approach involves asking, "Who are your people?" before expressing any opinions about local families. This genealogical awareness creates a society where individual actions reflect on extended family networks. Personal behavior becomes collective responsibility because reputation spreads through known family connections. This system preserves family history but creates social minefields that require constant navigation. Number 11. The ferry fort protection that still influences construction. Irish construction projects still halt for ferry forts, ancient ring-shaped earthworks that locals believe house supernatural beings. Modern developers learn that bulldozing these sites brings catastrophically bad luck, validated by enough construction accidents and business failures to make insurance companies nervous. The protection isn't superstition, but community wisdom disguised as folklore. These archaeological sites represent thousands of years of history that would be lost to development pressure without supernatural protection. Belief in fairy retribution provides ironclad preservation that legal protections couldn't match. Construction workers refuse to disturb ferry forts regardless of project timelines or developer pressure. Equipment operators will quit rather than dig near these sites, citing family stories about supernatural punishment for disrespecting ferry dwelling. The economic impact surprises foreign investors who discover that profitable development sites become unusable due to local supernatural beliefs. Road projects reroute around ferry forts, adding millions to construction costs but maintaining community support. Archaeological surveys reveal that ferry fort locations often correspond to significant prehistoric settlements, suggesting that supernatural beliefs preserve genuinely important historical sites. This supernatural preservation system demonstrates how folklore can serve scientific preservation goals. Number 12. The immigration trauma that haunts every conversation. Irish social interaction carries the constant undercurrent of immigration anxiety. Every gathering operates under the assumption that half the participants will eventually leave, creating relationships intensely meaningful yet deliberately temporary. This psychological tension shapes every social interaction. The phenomenon isn't historical. Modern Irish immigration continues as young professionals leave for opportunities in London, Australia, or North America. Communities invest emotionally in people they know will probably depart, creating a bittersweet intensity in all relationships. Farewell parties become ritual events where communities practice grief for the living. The person leaving receives send-off celebrations that resemble funerals, complete with tears and promises to stay connected that everyone knows will fade with time and distance. The psychological adaptation involves loving people while preparing for their absence. Irish social life operates in a state of chronic anticipatory loss that would devastate communities without strong adaptation strategies. Returned immigrants face their own adjustment challenges, trying to reintegrate into communities that evolved during their absence. The welcome is warm but complicated by changed relationships and missed shared experiences. This immigration culture creates a unique approach to friendship that values intensity over longevity. Number 13. The wake tradition that celebrates death like a party. Irish wakes transform death from somber ritual into community celebration that would shock cultures with more subdued funeral traditions. The deceased remains in the family home for 3 days, while the community gathers for continuous storytelling, drinking, and reminiscing that resembles a festival more than mourning. The psychological function serves multiple purposes. It processes grief through storytelling, strengthens community bonds during crisis, and celebrates the deceased's life, rather than lamenting their death. Children play in rooms adjacent to the corpse, normalizing death as part of life's continuum. The tradition requires enormous logistical coordination. Neighbors organize food rotations, manage visitor flow, and ensure the family receives practical support during their grief. The wake becomes a demonstration of community strength and mutual support. Visitors expecting quiet condolences find themselves drawn into loud conversations, shared meals, and sometimes impromptu music sessions. The atmosphere prioritizes celebration over sadness, creating a unique approach to processing mortality. The 3-day timeline allows extended family and friends to travel for participation, but it also provides structured grieving time where emotions can be expressed and processed within community support. Type 1 in the comments if you think this celebration approach to death is healthier than quiet mourning, or 2 if you prefer more subdued funeral traditions. This community approach to death reflects broader patterns in Irish social support systems. Number 14. The turf rights that connect families to ancient lands. Irish bog rights grant families permission to cut turf, peat, from specific locations their ancestors used centuries ago. These hereditary rights pass through generations regardless of property ownership changes, creating a complex system where land use depends on genealogy rather than deeds. The physical labor of turf cutting becomes annual family ritual where multiple generations work together to harvest fuel for winter heating. The process requires specialized knowledge about proper cutting techniques, drying schedules, and storage methods passed through family lines. Legal complications arise when turf rights conflict with modern property ownership. Families may own cutting rights on land they don't possess, while property owners must allow access to turf cutters whose families earned rights generations ago. The environmental implications create modern dilemmas. Turf cutting contributes to ecological damage, yet these ancient rights represent cultural heritage that communities resist abandoning. The debate between environmental protection and traditional rights remains unresolved. The economic reality makes turf rights valuable as heating costs rise. Families with bog access possess fuel security that neighbors without rights must purchase, creating economic divisions based on ancestral geography. Type 1 if you think these ancient land rights should be preserved as cultural heritage, or 2 if environmental protection should override traditional practices. This connection to ancestral land use reveals deeper patterns about Irish relationship to landscape. Number 15. The silence code that makes noise pollution impossible. Rural Irish communities operate under an unspoken silence code that would bewilder urban dwellers accustomed to constant background noise. Loud conversations, music, or machinery operation requires community consent obtained through subtle social negotiation rather than formal permissions. The psychological impact creates environments where natural sounds, wind, rain, bird songs, dominate daily experience. Residents develop heightened sensitivity to acoustic changes that signal weather shifts, animal distress, or mechanical problems requiring attention. Violation of silence expectations triggers community intervention through increasingly direct social pressure. Initial responses involve subtle comments about noise levels, escalating to direct confrontation if the behavior continues. The social consequences can include community ostracism. The system operates through mutual consideration rather than legal enforcement. Everyone understands that their noise affects neighbors, creating self-regulation that maintains acoustic peace without formal rules or complaints procedures. Visitors accustomed to urban noise levels find the silence initially uncomfortable, then deeply restorative. The absence of mechanical background noise allows mental relaxation that urban dwellers rarely experience. This acoustic consideration extends into broader patterns of environmental sensitivity. Step back from these individual peculiarities, and a larger truth emerges about what it means to live on the edge of Europe's consciousness. Ireland isn't just a country with unusual customs. It's a laboratory for human adaptation to isolation, uncertainty, and collective survival. Every strange tradition we've explored serves the same fundamental purpose: binding communities together tightly enough to survive on a storm-battered island where individual success means nothing without collective resilience. The invasive neighborliness, the genealogical obsessions, the supernatural preservation systems, they're all adaptive responses to geographic and historical pressures that demanded community cooperation or death. What makes Ireland fascinating isn't the individual quirks, but how they form an integrated social system designed for survival in conditions that would break more individualistic cultures. The weather, gambling, time, flexibility, and social surveillance create a society that bends rather than breaks under pressure. Ireland's current transformation from poor agricultural periphery to wealthy technological center represents one of humanity's most dramatic cultural transitions within a single generation. Remember that matching tradition we opened with? The reality is even more complex than modern dating apps could imagine. Irish romantic connections develop through layers of community knowledge, family approval, genealogical compatibility, and social positioning that make individual choice just one factor in relationship formation. The shift culture we explored represents rebellion against this community oversight, a way for young people to experience physical connection outside the complex social calculations that govern more serious relationships. It's not promiscuity. It's freedom from the weight of community involvement in personal intimacy. But here's the paradox that defines modern Ireland. The same social systems that can feel suffocating also provide security, identity, and meaning that individualistic cultures struggle to replicate. The price of community protection is community involvement in every aspect of personal life. The question isn't whether Irish social systems are better or worse than alternatives, but what they reveal about the fundamental human challenge of balancing individual autonomy with collective survival. The deeper truth about Ireland, and perhaps about human adaptation everywhere, is that survival strategies become cultural identity, and cultural identity shapes every aspect of daily experience. What looks like a quaint tradition is actually sophisticated social engineering developed over centuries of testing. Now, back to that shift culture question from our opening. Knowing what you now understand about Irish community dynamics and social pressure, could you navigate a society where your romantic choices operate under such complex social oversight? Would you thrive in a community where everyone knows your business? Or would the lack of privacy drive you to immigration like so many others? Drop your answer in the comments. And if you found yourself seeing Ireland differently than you expected, hit that subscribe button, because understanding how cultures adapt to their challenges reveals truths about human nature that you'll never discover through surface-level tourism. The world is full of places where survival strategies masquerade as local customs. Ireland just happens to be honest about it.